This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Devin Sullivan. Devin, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Cool, man. So the first question I want to start everything off with, Devin, is who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
So, I mean, everybody watched Pumping Iron. You know, it's like the Holy Bible on DVD for us. My personal favorites, Dorian Yates, Lee Labrada. I'm a big fan of Hunter now. Gaspari. I'm very loyal to the old school, the older generation. I mean, there's a lot of amazing bodybuilders out there now. But these are the guys that, I don't know, they're the godfathers of the sport. You know, I feel as though, and I think a lot of people agree with me, that the mindset then and the mindset now is just like completely different. These guys were just plain different mentally, and they were just real. And they're just really interesting. It's like you read all their books and all their training DVDs, and you want to go train.
Yeah, right, for sure. Hardcore is kind of the word that we would use for that generation, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
You grab big weight and you move it.
Yeah, for sure. I think of, like, you said Rich Gaspari. I mean, he was kind of known for, obviously his conditioning and stuff, but, he was just kind of that mentality, that mindset of just going balls to the wall in the gym and going to do whatever it takes. And I think that was kind of the way you would sum up that generation of bodybuilders, right?
Yeah, he and Lee. Oh my gosh, I think everybody strives to have that training partner where you have that dynamic going at each other, and then you're at the end of the day, you're both exhausted. And you're like, that was fun. Let's do it again tomorrow.
For sure. Yep. And it took him to the top. Obviously, a Mr. Olympia and then a Mr. Olympia runner-up. So now. You mentioned Hunter Labrada. Who are some other guys that maybe you admire or look up to, at least their physiques in the current IFBB?
Wow, that's a great question. So, being a smaller guy, I'm 5'6". Huge fan of Sean Clarita. I got to meet him and talk to him a couple times at a couple shows that I've done. I'm a big fan of the 212 guys. Dave Henry, he's kind of been my number one 212 guy for forever, since he won the 202 showdown. Oh my God, that was just amazing watching him come up. Mark Dugdale. Another one, Derek Farnsworth. All the guys who started out competing at 175 pounds as a professional, it gives us little guys hope. Yeah.
For sure, man. All right, I want to know, Devin, at what age you started lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
So I grew up in a very athletic family. My brother was the guy, every sport he did, he was amazing at. Started playing soccer when I was little, playing rec soccer and stuff. My mother was a competitive bodybuilder. My mother was a natural pro back in the 90s. And I just was blown away by it. It was just awesome. I had a jacked mom, taking me to soccer practice. I remember going to soccer tryouts, and my mom would be laid out, in the chaise lounge with the reflector with iodine, just like, oh yeah, she was awesome. She was just this tiny little beast in the gym. And I just grew up sitting in the corner watching her, squatting until she fell over, so that all started, middle school is really when my mom and dad got me my first, weight set and everything. And then my brother started bringing me to the gym.
Cool, man. Okay. Now I've got to ask you, if you know the story, how did your mom get into bodybuilding? Because this would have been probably what, like as in the 80s at some point.
I think her first show was, I want to say like, I think it was 90 or 91.
Okay.
She did her very first show at 42 years old.
Hmm.
Her friend Debbie Kajander, who was a great bodybuilder around here, said, "Hey, you should do a show." And my mom's just that kind of person who's always just like, somebody says, "Hey, let's do something fun." My mom's like, "Sure, sounds great. I'll do it. Why not?" And she won the whole thing. She won the overall at 42 years old in her very first show.
Super cool, man. So then, did your mom do much competing after that, or what did her competition history kind of look like?
She competed for 4 years.
Okay.
Around here, I think for like the nationals was like the big thing in the area, and I remember breaking her trophy. I felt so bad. She loved to compete, but she started to just kind of pull back because I was getting older. And I'm the kid saying, no, keep going. Keep going. This is awesome. And she's like, nah, you're getting older. You've got soccer, you've got wrestling. I want to be there for all those. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
That's pretty cool, man. Okay.
Yeah,
So, let's talk a little bit more about your childhood then. So you mentioned soccer before we hit record. You mentioned wrestling to me, a very athletic family, a very athletic background, you said earlier. So what was childhood like for you, Devin? What was school like for you? Paint that picture a little bit for us, please.
So I was very, very sports motivated. I did anything I possibly could to make sure that I could play my sports. And growing up when I was younger, everything was very structured. I work, and I still do work when I have more very good structure. Wake up, go to school, go to practice, do homework. If it was soccer season, go outside, do my juggling, work on my placements and go to bed. Wrestling was my main sport. My brother was an amazing wrestler in high school and college. That was big. I would try to find any practice going on with any other schools who did, out of season wrestling. I'd go and practice with them. Hey guys, can I practice with you guys? Can I get in some? Yeah, absolutely. Come on. But it was very structured. Whenever I wasn't playing soccer during the actual soccer season, I was playing indoor soccer, at Seacoast United. I just trying to stay in the sport for as long as possible to continue to, be the best as I possibly can. It was great.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. It was great. School in my younger days was great. I liked school. I was very involved with it. I got into an accident in 3rd grade, which I got hit by a truck riding my bike. Got a big knock on my head. Things kind of came down a little bit. So just started trying to, I get tutors and stuff like that. Try to help me out as much as I possibly can to make sure I can continue to play the sports that I love.
And you grew up in Maine, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. What's obviously Maine, I've heard that it's beautiful up there. I've never been myself, but it's not that big of a state. I mean, there's not like a bunch of big cities. So what's life like growing up in that small state of Maine?
So a lot of woods, a lot of playing in the woods. Is where I lived in the most southern point in Maine, Kittery, Maine. We're famous for the Kittery outlets. Go shopping. It was very typical. All my friends lived, bike ride distance. So we were always riding our bikes back and forth between each other's houses. I had a lot of land. My dad is a Maine lobsterman. So, we bought a new old house that was in my family for years. had tons of land. So we went 4-wheeling and, you know, a lot of wilderness stuff, which was great, you know, but like I said, it was just a lot of sports, a lot of running around in the woods, you know, a lot of great kid stuff, you know, drank from the hose.
That's good, man. That's healthy. We need more of our youth nowadays growing up like that. I grew up kind of free range like that myself in Iowa, and I look back and I'm so thankful for that childhood, being able to live that way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we were raised right, man.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about once you kind of got into high school, you know, continuing to play sports. What was high school like for you? Did you just kind of continue that regimented athletic life, or did things change a little bit or shift for you in high school, Devin?
I tried. You know, obviously sports where it was upgraded, you know, a lot better athletes and stuff like that. You know, I was a 4-sport athlete. I also played rugby for Seacoast, which is the premier, guess you could say, team around this area, Seacoast United. My grade, I discovered girls, you know, so I was too busy, you know, trying to play with girls, and, you know, my grades came down a little bit, need more tutoring, you know, but I was very focused on sports. So I literally did everything I could because my goal was to wrestle in college, and I really wanted to do that. You know, we had a great soccer team. I played soccer with all these guys from age 10 all the way up through high school. You know, wrestling, Maine's a big wrestling state. You know, a lot of people don't realize that. You know, we got a lot of great coaches, a lot of great teams, and I just bounced around just to get as good as I could possibly be. You know, went and checked out colleges with great wrestling programs, you know, talked to as many coaches as I could. But most of the time my head was just kind of drifting off, you know, getting into trouble, you know, chasing girls around.
Okay. It sounds pretty normal and typical for most of us teenage boys at that point, right?
Yeah.
Now, outside of wanting to wrestle in college, Devin, did you ever have any like dreams or any thoughts about like a job or a career, or was there anything that your parents were kind of pushing you towards in terms of a job or career post high school? If so, what was that?
I wish, honestly. I mean, at this age, you know, I'm 37 now. Looking back, I feel as though I should, you know, followed in my father's footsteps. My dad's been a Maine lobsterman for over 50 years. Like, he's been doing it forever, and he's good at it. He's the guy in the area. He is Mr. Consistency. You know, somebody has another lobsterman has a bad day, you know, that's like my dad, you know, a good day for somebody else is my dad's average, you know. And looking back, it's like I should have followed in my dad's footsteps, become a Maine lobsterman, you know. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for the most part, but, you know, she, you know, picked up some side jobs here and there. And, you know, I wish, you know, and I think a lot of people can look back at this, you know, when they start getting older, they go, you know, I really should have, you know, tried coming up with something at this time, you know, but I was just so headstrong at being an athlete. I didn't think of, all right, what about a career? You know, what's going to happen when I become an adult? Now,
I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your dad, since he was kind of in the lobsterman business, he didn't go to college. Did your mom go to college or not?
Yep. She did 2 years, I think, at Springfield College.
Okay.
Yep. My dad, I don't think he did.
Okay.
I don't think he did. He was hauling traps since he was 10.
Okay. Now, for those of us who don't live on a coast, and I mean, a lobsterman, you're calling your dad, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming he catches lobsters, and then like sells them and things like that. And that's how he makes his living. But just for those of us who really don't know what that is, like what does your dad do? What's a lobsterman?
Okay. So, you know the show, The Deadliest Catch?
I've heard of it. I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Smaller boat, metal traps, and he lays them out in strings. You know, you put bait in the traps, he lays them out in different strings along, along a specific line, I guess you could call it. You know, he lies certain trawls and stuff like that, about 8 traps per line, drops them all, comes back in a couple days, hauls them up. The traps are filled with lobsters.
Okay.
You know, measure them, make sure they're not small. They can only be a certain size and up. And, he brings, and once he's all filled up, he brings them in and over to the lobster pound. The woman who owns the lobster pound is actually a family friend. I went to school with all of her sons, and lobstering is a great business, but right now they're taking some heat.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So once you graduated from high school, how did life unfold for you, Devin?
So I tried going to community college, which didn't really pan out that well. I just wasn't focused. Like, I was just focused on other things. I was living on my own for the first time with my best friend, which was never good. You're 18 years old and you have your first apartment with your best friend. I mean, what good can come of that? So once that was done, the family decided to, pack up and we moved to Florida. I went to NPTI, the National Personal Training Institute, got my associates and I got my certification, started training people. But at the time when I was, 19, 20, Florida sucked. It's just like, you can only do so much when you're 19, 20 years old. So the whole family packed up, minus my dad. My parents got divorced sophomore year. So me, my brother, my mom, my brother's wife, we all packed up. My brother was a hard hat diver in the Gulf of Mexico. So we all just decided, you know what, this sucks. Let's head home. And we were down there for about a year. We moved home and I tried, being a trainer. And it's very different, when you're a trainer in Florida, when all season's in season. Everybody wants to look good for the beach and everything. You move up here, we got seasons, it gets cold. So getting started was tough. So I went and worked for the lobster pound for a while, and then I got in with FedEx.
Okay. Now, when did we kind of mentioned, we talked about like when you kind of started lifting weights, and obviously you were exposed to some sort of bodybuilding because of your mother. But
Yep.
When did bodybuilding kind of start becoming a thing for you, Devin?
So I was working out religiously. Never missed the gym, eating like a madman. And then my mom was asking, she's like, you got to do it. You have to. So a year later, 2007, I did my first show. It was the Granite State Open in Dover, New Hampshire, where I currently live. And that was the bug. I was just like, this is it. Yeah. I want to do this, and I want to make my mom proud, and I want to do better than she did.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you said 2007 is when your first competition was?
Yes, sir.
How old were you at that point, Devin?
23.
Okay.
You're making me do math right now.
Well, I'm 2 years younger than you. I graduated high school in 2006.
Yeah.
So you were probably about 20, 21 or something.
Ish. Yeah. Around there.
I'd say, yeah, probably right around there. Okay. So, from that competition, now with that first competition, Devin, did you hire a coach? Did your mom help you? Did you do it on your own? How did that go?
Nope. So a family friend of ours, she competed against my mother.
Okay.
She's a trainer in the area. Her name's Laura Turtelot. She's this awesome, very old school dieting. You know, when you're getting ready, you know, all right, at 2:00, I want you to have 6 ounces of chicken. And 2 hours later, I want you to have 4 ounces of sweet potato, and then, you know, alternating it. And that's your meal, like very old school. And she got me ready for my first show, but like, you know, I thought I was doing everything right, you know, but realistically looking back, I'm like, oh God, why did I eat that? You know, but you know, I was young and it was, you know, stepping stones. You know, I placed 5th at my first show. I actually passed out on stage.
Oh yeah, why is that? Not enough
So,
water or what?
so she's like, yeah, before you go on stage, you know, I want you to take some niacin, you know, to help you, you know, pump up and stuff like that. I'm like, all right. So being a little too dehydrated, you know, and taking too much niacin, I got so flushed, and I'm standing on stage and I started like wobbling. And my group, I remember, because my group was split into 2 because there was a lot of people in my group. So we stood up, did our thing, did our compulsories, and I like fell forward. I like blacked out real little quick. And I have a scar on my chin from smacking my chin off the stage. I stood up and the judge goes, "Are you okay, number 8?" Right back. And it was embarrassing, but luckily I was already judged. They were shoving fudge and like Gatorade in my face, just like eat. You gotta get your blood sugar back up. Friggin' my best friend's dad hurdled like 5 people and jumped on stage, picked me up, and ran me backstage. They had to go through the women's locker room. You know, all the women competitors are getting changed and everything, and I'm unconscious. Like, they turn on the shower, they stick me in the shower with a bottle of Gatorade, and they just say, "Chill out, just lay here." And after that, I was, you know, we went home. I ate a Frosty from Wendy's, a big calzone, and then I went back to do my posing routine, and I got 5th place.
Well, that's the first time I've ever heard that on all these podcast conversations. So that's good. Now,
First for everything.
What's that?
It's a first for everything.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. I love it. Now, from that first competition, why don't you talk a little bit more about your competing history, Devin?
So I stayed in the NGA for a while. And at that time, my mindset was different. You know, I looked at bodybuilding a lot differently than I do now. You know, I competed in the NGA for a couple of years, did a couple OCB shows. I'm still friends with all the promoters, all great people. But I started noticing the guys who were winning, and they were built a lot different than a lot of the guys who were winning. One, they were taller than me, but they were also skinnier. And I was like these guys, man, they all look like track runners. Like, these guys don't look like bodybuilders. They're just completely shredded.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I talked to Laura, and I decided to part ways with her as a coach. She's still a very good friend of mine. Got in with a new coach named Rob Knox out of New Jersey. Awesome guy. And he brought me over to a different organization, Muscle Mania, which at the time, I was like, great, new organization. This is awesome. And I started winning. And, I got still, the guys who were winning looked like bodybuilders. They still had the conditioning, but these guys, thick, wide, you know, and I'm like, all right, this is where I belong. And he and I started winning. You know, we won in Boston, we won in New York. There was one show that was really bad. It was Atlantic City. And you would think that a show in Atlantic City would be huge. He didn't promote the show at all. At all. So there was 48 competitors total at this show. 3 of the judges decided, screw it. They didn't show up. So they grabbed people that they knew from the audience to be judges. And we're all just like, hold on. So, you know, they grouped a bunch of people together, and it was one of those. And then, you know, I was talking to my coach, and I just decided one day, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to make the jump. And I decided that if I was going to do that, I needed a different coach, you know, somebody who could, I guess you could say, coach me through everything. And I got in with Chris, who's indispensable.
Chris Tuttle, right? That's who you're talking about?
Yeah. And it was awesome. You know, actually, so before I jumped in with him, I tried doing New England's with my old coach. And we went in about pseudo natural. And, you know, I tried doing classic physique, and it just wasn't for me. It just felt weird. I'm not good at being pretty. You know, so got in with Chris. We did, and we have a very similar mindset. You know, I told him, listen, man, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. I don't care. You're the coach, I'm the athlete. I listen. And, you know, we came up with a good game plan. Our first show was the East Coast Cup in 2018. And it was an awesome experience. After, you know, missing the top 5 for the very first time, I made a promise to myself that that was never going to happen again. And our very first show working together, I won the middleweights in Connecticut. So 2020 happened. 19, I broke my foot. 2020 happened. 2021, he and I went to Vermont. And I went in as a light heavyweight, and I won the overall. And we just did, you know, the off season after that, it didn't go as planned. You know, we just didn't put on the size that we needed. So instead of getting ready for a national show, he said, you know what, instead of doing an off season, I want to throw you at a big show. Whatever you want, you know, you pick the show, we will go in and do what we got to do. So we went in and did the Eastern USA's November 12th last year. And as a, you know, just as a test show to see how I compete up against, you know, top national guys. Because I mean, you've been following it for so long that you know, majority of the guys who win the overall at Easterns, they go on to be pros, you know, and lost the middleweights by a very slim margin, unfortunately. So I got second place in the middles, but Chris was very happy with how everything went. We went in as a middleweight, went in the best condition we've ever been in. It was a great experience, and it's just like, and Chris is very good at instilling this great confidence in you. Just the way that he talks, you know, I've this new confidence in me, has, you know, it's great, you know, and then I believe that we can make a good run and make a good push. You know, we do everything that we need to do. And yeah, You know, Chris is just an unbelievable coach, and I'll never leave him.
Yeah. Well, I think also he's a great human, which, you know, you've got to be that first, I think, before you can be a great coach or a great anything, right, Devin?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Him and Alexia, they're awesome people. Unbelievably kind. Just awesome. Really great people. Chris, you know, he's not just my coach. We've developed a really good friendship. And I think he's just very personable. And it's just a great way to, you know, it's just a great way to go about things, you know, when you guys know each other and you just do it.
And we can't forget that Chris obviously is an IFBB pro, and if he asked me, he had an unbelievably amazing physique. I loved his structure, his quads and bicep peaks, and just,
oh my God, when he won his pro card, that look was amazing.
Right. Yeah.
It
It would have been nice to see him compete a little bit longer in the IFBB, but I understand. I mean, they're just killing it in business. I know they're involved in real estate. They moved down to Texas, I think, from Connecticut. So yeah, I understand all that, but man, what a physique too, right?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So they were driving to Vermont, and I'm driving to Texas from Connecticut. They were like halfway there, and I sent Chris. I'm like, like, dude, I won. And this is in Vermont. And he goes, call me. And I called him. He goes, are you kidding me? And he's like screaming. He's like, I had to pull over on the highway. And he's screaming at me. And yeah, and like, he's like, I don't even know where Alexia is. She thinks I probably crashed, like all this stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was funny. It was good.
Cool, man. Love that. Okay, now those two competitions you just talked about, those were in 2021, or was that last year in 2022?
So, oh yeah, that's right. Wow, we're in 2023 now, huh?
Yeah. 2 months in, Devin. 2 months in.
Yeah. Good. We're there now. 2021 was Vermont. My buddy won the overall in Vermont in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is then, you took all of 2022 off, and is that just to add size and kind of have a full off season before you step back on stage in 2023? Walk us through that.
So yeah, Vermont was 2021, and last year 2022 was Eastern USA's.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, our plan, it's kind of going to go one of two ways. My weak area is my back. And that's, you know, what a good thing about Easterns was, you know, when they had us all lined up, you know, doing our poses, you know, you're like, all right, great conditioning. But one thing was standing out was I was getting heavily out muscled from the back. All these guys had very thick, wide backs, and mine lacks that. Mine's just very shallow. I get wide, but when it comes to deep, thick, you know, I gotta throw about 6 pounds on. And Chris just said, hey, we need to put on 6 pounds of muscle. Okay. And if everything goes perfect, if we have an awesome off season, then we will do North Americans. I'm like, all right, perfect. And he's like, if not, then we're going to do another big show, and we're going to aim for an overall. And I'm like, okay. So I'm assuming maybe go back to New Jersey, do Eastern USA's, or potentially stay close by and do New England's.
Cool.
So they can go either way.
Now, New England's, that's is that Jay Cutler's show that he promotes out there?
He goes to that, and he's kind of one of the presenters, but the Jay Cutler Classic is a different show. Okay. Yeah, but they're both in Massachusetts. New England's just moved from the city to Revere, which is good, because I've heard the venue is actually really nice.
Okay, so Let's talk about training then. How has your training, Devin, over the years evolved, and what does your training kind of look like current day?
Oh man, it's pretty night and day actually. Um, growing up with watching the guys that I, mentioned, I always thought that I had to do what they did, you know, taking a lot of workouts out of magazines and stuff like that, just ripping weight. If I'm not using heavy weight, I'm not growing, stuff like that. And then, I just started saying, you know what, if I'm going to do this at a high level, I'm like, I'm going to talk to somebody. Chris was helping me out for a little bit. And then, for Vermont, I was asking, cause he's good friends with, John Jewett. They were both with, Animal and Universal together. And John was actually doing Chris's training for him, doing his workouts. And he goes, talk to John. He's like, you absolutely need to talk to John. John is unbelievable. And I'm like, okay. And I sent him all my pictures, and he's like, he put together a great plan. And, I'm like, all right, yeah, I know all these movements, perfect. And he's like, I want you to send me videos of all your top sets. So once I did that, that's when I realized that my form on a lot of stuff sucked. Oh, I mean, and he did it in a great way, but he lit me up. Like, it was bad, elbows and just tweaking things that ended up having a completely different feel. And I was just like, this is great. I didn't have to think about anything. I just went, all right, today is Wednesday. That's what we're doing. Perfect. And I could focus on that, and just focusing on exactly what he told me to do, exactly executing exactly how he wants. And things started changing immensely. I'm very bottom heavy, so my legs are very dominant, compared to upper body. So we had to bring upper body up. We had to really bring up my shoulders, chest thickness, obviously my back, which improved, but still didn't improve to the, as much as we needed it to. Did that. And then, just getting ready for another, the next show, starting to budget and stuff like that. And John's a great coach. He's an unbelievable coach. If I wasn't working with Chris, I'd probably hit up John, but I just couldn't afford it. Bodybuilding is expensive. It's very, very expensive. So I asked Chris, I'm like, so I love having a coach for both. I do. I just work better when I'm told what to do. Like I said before, it's like, I think that's how most athletes are. When you're coachable, things just go so much smoother. And I told him, like, I got you locked down. Would you recommend anybody to help me, with my workouts and everything like that? And he goes, absolutely. He goes, one of my other clients is Nick Bagley. And I know you've worked with him once or twice too.
Well, he's been on one of the podcasts I've done. So yeah, for sure. I know.
Yeah. Awesome guy. Mm-hmm. Him and John are very, very similar, very smart, very particular on how a movement is executed. And he's been fantastic. He's been great. We've, like right now, my leg routine, I'm not squatting. Leg press for quads, leg press, split squat, leg extensions. And realistically, for me right now, that's all I need, is we're just trying to add, more deepness to the cuts, and hold on to size, which is great. But yeah, I prefer to be just, tell me what to do. I will execute.
Yeah.
And that's just how I've always been.
Mhm. Okay. Now, since the back thickness is kind of like your biggest weak point at this juncture in the game, what are some of your movements that you guys are implementing and focusing on in this off season to bring up that back thickness, Devin?
So right now we have our back days split up into an upper back and then a lat focus. So my heavy rows are more isolated, like an incline dumbbell row, a chest supported T-bar row, on our upper back days, with more of the execution, with more of the execution of retracting the shoulder and then pulling, opposed to when we're isolating the lats and, you're focused on keeping your shoulder in one spot. You're not retracting. You're just focusing on your elbow, which is another thing that I was totally, wasn't even thinking about, in previous years. And it's made a huge difference. It's made a huge difference. So a lot of one-arm cable rows. He just added a movement that actually Hunter Labrada was talking about on his Instagram. This one-arm straight arm pull down. That's fantastic. I mean, the workouts are very great but every movement has a purpose. It's not just, barbell rows, dumbbell rows, cable rows, pullovers. It's everything is very meticulous, which I love. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. And we've found, certain areas, where I'm lopsided. So the one arm movements are really helping bring up that evenness of the back. But yeah, like I'm keeping my shoulder down while I'm pulling and keeping my elbow in, really pulling down to really hit those lower lats. But really focus on, with my retracting and pulling and feeling the movement where you want it to, and you hear people like, well, that's not hardcore. Why not? I mean, look at how Ben Pekulski used to train. That guy was absolutely hardcore, but him, Kai Green, stuff like that, they knew exactly where they wanted to feel the muscle. So every movement had a purpose. Every movement was executed in a specific way for a specific purpose. And that's how Nick has designed our training programs now, which is fantastic. I love it. And I mean, I'm wasted after all my workouts. Like, it's if done, like that's what we want, right?
Yeah. Mind to muscle connection. It's definitely a powerful tool. Now,
oh, absolutely.
In terms of your nutrition and eating during like kind of the off season, how does Chris kind of have you eating? Is it like the normal typical foods you would eat during a prep, plus like some free meals, or what's that look like, Devin?
So right now I was having a little bit of my appetite out of nowhere just took a nosedive. And Chris is a gut specialist. I mean, I've sent people over to talk to him who's got Crohn's and all this stuff because he's just a master of the gut. Like, he's awesome. So we kind of dialed back the carbs a little bit, and he was asking specifically what I was eating. And I have a soft spot for Ben's bag rice, the coconut jasmine rice.
Okay.
Oh, it's awesome, but it was screwing up my digestion. So I had to cut that out. We've had our carbs just a little lower right now. Everything. I mean, I eat the same thing all the time. I just don't get bored, and I can have a cheat meal when if it need be, but I always save it for like the weekend, or like I save it for like after leg day, go get a Five Guys burger or something like that. But everything we're eating, it's for the most part, it stays the same. We just more or less, oats, cream of rice, white rice, potatoes, peanut butter, olive oil, eggs, chicken, beef. Everything's it's just very easy.
Yeah.
It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why try to reinvent the wheel when everything we're doing up to now is working?
Yeah. Right.
Just keep it going, So in next check-in this weekend, if everything goes well, he'll up the food, we'll start growing again. We'll hit that and start hitting that real off season, start making those changes.
Okay. Cool, man. So what's your ultimate like bodybuilding goal? I mean, is it to get a pro card? Is it to get your pro card and then be competitive in the 212? What's kind of the vision for yourself in terms of your bodybuilding career, Devin?
I mean, honestly, I love the sport. I love the industry. I mean, I love everything about the industry. Working with supplement companies. I got my very first sponsor this year, which I love. Like a Pro Supplements, Jeff Long. Dude, guys, he and I have been following each other for years, and he just, hey man, check your email, and like, check that off the box. I love working with the supplements. My ambassador for Gasp and Better Bodies. That's a huge family. It's just a big family atmosphere. It's awesome with a lot of great athletes. Amazing people are involved. So it's like, I got that side. I love being a part of all those things. My goal is to compete at a high level. I'm not one of those guys who is, has everything planned out. Well, I'm going to do this show and qualify for nationals. Then I'm going to get my pro card. And then I'm thinking about, I'll do the New York Pro. You're like, come on, dude. Like, there's a lot of guys like that around here.
Oh, I know. I have a lot of conversations with those guys.
Yeah. No. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Well, here's the truth. There's a lot of, and I'll say it because I have a lot of conversations with bodybuilders and coaches. There's a lot of delusional people in the fitness industry, and that's just the truth. That's just the facts. And I hear people all the time on the podcast tell me stuff, and I never want to like be a hater or,
of course not. No.
Try to put the fire out that's burning inside of somebody. But I just feel like if you're gonna be a bodybuilder and you want to be the best that you can be, like yes, you got to dream big and you've got to have big goals and aspirations, all that, but you got to be realistic too. Like, you got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror, pick your own physique apart, but you need to have people in your life that are going to rip you apart, pick you apart and say, hey, bro, like you're not turning pro. You're not going to turn pro at nationals this year. And you're definitely not going to place in the first call-outs at the New York Pro. It's not going to happen. So let's just keep it real, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's another reason why I love Chris.
Yeah.
He tells me exactly how it is.
Yeah.
And, I just think those added, that's fine if you want to dream big. Would I love to eventually, compete at a high level and be one of those lucky, fortunate athletes to be on the Olympia stage? Oh my God. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's every competitor's dream. But I'm not out here preaching about it.
Yeah.
I put one goal in front of me at a time.
Yeah.
So my goal right now, crush this off season. Yeah. Have the best off season I possibly can have. And when that show comes, whether it be a big show or it be the biggest show, to go in there and, the goal is to win. I don't train for second place. And I know this is going to sound very insensitive, but I'm not one of those people I'm a winner today. I've never been that guy. I train to win. And to me, you're not a champion unless you're holding the biggest trophy on stage. Yeah. And I know that sounds very insensitive, but that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And, the goal is to, whether it be going into North Americans or New England's or, Eastern USA's or whichever show, the goal is to go in and win.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And that is my goal as of yet. But eventually, yes, I would love to have, IFBB Pro next to my name, and follow in the footsteps of all the guys that I've looked up to since I started bodybuilding.
Cool. Awesome, man. So let's, we're going to start finishing up here, Devin. Now I want to ask you, what do you feel like what do you feel like bodybuilding has taught you? Now, we all know the discipline and work ethic and all that, but if you never started to compete in bodybuilding, what do you feel like you would have missed out on, or what's something you don't feel like you would have learned outside of bodybuilding?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, we obviously all have, we all learn discipline,
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But I think it's, one of the ones I don't think you hear anybody really talking about is time management.
Yeah.
You never hear people talk about, time management's really, time management. And a lot of guys, especially guys who work 12-hour days, like I do, we have to make sure everything's laid out, or you're going to miss meals, you're going to miss training, we all have appointments, we all have a life.
Yeah.
So time management's been a really big one. Listening to my body, and, something doesn't feel right, or, it's, you learn a lot more about your own health. You really learn I'm constantly learning about my own body, how what foods are best, what, things react better in my body, what movements work better in my body, like Dorian said, like not everybody's built to squat, I mean, granted, I'm a midget, but it is what it is. But like, you learn so much, time management, health, mobility, we started working with Nick and do a lot of mobility stuff, which makes a humongous difference in my everyday life. And just, I guess you could say, living in the moment. I've met a lot of really awesome people. And I mean, there's some certain pros that I've met have been amazing. I really remember a conversation I had with Evan Centopani, who's great close friends with Chris, and talking to him was amazing. Just the way that the things he was saying, you're just like, you want him to keep going. Bev Francis, love talking to Bev. Whenever I see her at shows, I'll sit right down and, just shoot it with her. She's just a sweetheart. You meet a lot of great people, and, you just learn that if you really, truly want something, whether it be mental or physical, you have to work as hard as you possibly can to get it. It's not going to give it to you. I'm not just going to be given 6 pounds of muscle on my back.
Right.
I have to go beat myself up for it.
You gotta earn it, right, Devin?
Absolutely.
Given, it's got to be earned for sure, man.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that's a great point to kind of wrap things up. I feel like we've had a pretty thorough conversation, Devin. So I want to just thank you for coming on the podcast, man, and sharing a little bit of your life and bodybuilding story with us. Before I do a quick outro and I let you go, why don't you give us any final thoughts, any final words that you might have, any shout outs, give us your Instagram, anything you want to leave us with. Platform's yours, Devin.
First off, thank you very much for having me. I've never been on a podcast before. This is really cool. I had a blast.
You did great, man. You did awesome.
I like to talk.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to be on anytime. Like a Pro Supplements, you know, Jeff Long, all the guys over at Gasp and Better Bodies, Michael Johansson, you know, Commander in Chief, you know, Melinda's Hot Sauces, those guys. I mean, it just really, thank you. I guess people care what I put on my social media. You know, this is just all new to me. You know, small town guy, just have a chance to do this, which is an absolute honor. But yeah, my Instagram, D Sullivan NPC. You know, hit me up, say hi, all that good stuff, and I hope to see you guys around. Yeah,
for sure, man. For the Leica Pro supplements, is there a discount code that people can support you by using?
Absolutely. D Sullivan at checkout. Absolutely support your boy.
Cool. Awesome, man. Yeah. We'll maybe if you head into North Americans or something like that this year, Devin, we'll have to try to get you back on and just talk about, you know, how the prep went and what your plans are, expectations for North Americans or one of the big national qualifiers. Okay.
Absolutely, man. I'll be in touch. I promise.
Okay, cool. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. If you guys have not done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button in regards to Behind the Muscle podcast on YouTube. And then please take this episode of Devin, make sure you share it on your Instagram stories, tag Devin, tag Behind the Muscle podcast so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it. And if you guys aren't following Devin, make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. Just give him that support. That would be greatly appreciated as well. And then per the usual, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.